Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your City of San Juan City Commission meeting. We call the meeting to order at 6:02. If we could please all stand for an invocation. Counselor, could you lead us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, we come before you asking for your blessings and help us as we are gathered here tonight. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you help us achieve what is best for the city of San Juan. We ask this in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen. Commissioner Suarez, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go Bears. At this time, there's no public comment. No one signed up for public comment. And so we'll move on to presentations. Item A, proclamation, proclaiming the month of May as Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month. We've prepared the proclamation. Is there someone here to receive it? If y'all could please just join us here at the front, and I'll read it off, and then
Awesome.
and then we'll give you an opportunity to say a few words, and then we'll take a picture.
Appreciate it.
All right? So proclamation, Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month. Whereas today's society is finding more citizens involved in motorcycling on the roads of our country, and whereas motorcyclists are roughly unprotected and much more likely to be injured or killed in a crash than other vehicle drivers, and whereas campaigns have helped inform riders and motorists alike on motorcycle safety issues to reduce motorcycle-related risks, injuries, and most of all, fatalities through a comprehensive approach to motorcycle safety, and whereas it is the responsibility of all who put themselves behind the wheel to become aware of motorcyclists, regarding them with the same respect as any other vehicle traveling the highway of this country. And whereas urging all of our community to become aware of the inherent danger involved in operating a motorcycle and give the operator the respect on the road they deserve. Now, therefore, Ms. San Juanita Sanchez, Mayor of the City of San Juan, along with myself, Mayor Pro Tem Armando Garza Jr., Commissioner Mario Garza, Commissioner Jesus Ramirez, and Commissioner Heriberto Suarez, hereby proclaim the month of May 2015 as Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month in San Juan, Texas.
Commissioners, everybody, would like to, on behalf of all the biking community, would like to sincerely thank you. We'd like to acknowledge the work that our local police departments have done. They really do look out for us and treat us with respect and help us as far as safety is concerned. You know, motorcyclists are a big group here in South Texas, and they come in all kind of shapes and sizes. For the most part, they are helping to drive the economy. They spend about every dime they get. They get involved in a lot of fundraising, a lot of charitable activities. We are quite different groups, riders, bikers. One thing we all have in common, though, we know when we get on that motorcycle that we can be in a lot of trouble real fast, and safety is a big issue. One thing that's common with all the bikers, we tend to take a bike blessing very seriously. We tend to carry biker Bibles, and we all look to God as our final source of safety, but we do really appreciate your help in this issue. I have a biker Bible I would like to present to the mayor, if that's okay.
I appreciate that. I truly appreciate that. Thank you for the gesture. I'd like to be able to, have we read the proclamation?
Yes, ma'am. We could take a picture.
I'd like to go ahead and get together, let's take a picture. I know you joined us last year, and looking forward to doing it again this year. Next item on the agenda, under proclamations, proclaiming Ashley M. Tapia achievement of the Class 5'8" State Champion in women's powerlifting. Any one of the commissioners that put this on the agenda can take that.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that it's always a great accomplishment for any individual to be able to become a state champion, and I think it's important for the city to always recognize them and promote that accomplishment. And so I'd ask that, along with Commissioner Ramirez, that we add this so that we could recognize Ms. Ashley Tapia. And it reads, whereas Ashley M. Tapia, a sophomore at PSJA Early College High School, won the class state championship in her weight class during the Texas High School Women's Powerlifting Competition in Corpus Christi on March 20th, 2015. And whereas Ms. Tapia swept the 220-pound class by lifting a total weight of 910 pounds, squatting 375 pounds, benching 165 pounds, and deadlifting 370 pounds. And whereas this is not the first time Ashley has achieved success in sport. Last year, she was crowned the district champion for the PSJA Early College High School varsity tennis team. And whereas regular physical activity in adolescents improves strength and endurance, increases self-esteem, and helps academic performance, which Ashley has exemplified throughout her high school career. And whereas Ashley is a daughter of Heriberto and Judy Ann Tapia of San Juan, and the sister of Chloeana and Gracie Lynn. And whereas Ashley is a proud resident of the city of San Juan and an example for all aspiring young athletes in our city. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of San Juan hereby honors Ashley M. Tapia for her achievement as a Class 5A state champion in women's powerlifting. Be it further resolved that with Ms. San Juanita Sanchez, Mayor of the City of San Juan, along with myself, Mayor Pro Tem Armando Garza, Commissioner Mario Garza, Commissioner Jesse Ramirez, and Commissioner Heriberto Suarez, do hereby issue this proclamation to Ms. Ashley M. Tapia on April 28th, 2015.
Take a picture with you.
Ms. Tapia has her family and one of her coaches with us. If y'all could please come up and take a picture with us as well.
And Proud Dad reminded me that she was the athlete of the year 2 years ago. All right. We now move on to item C, financial presentation by Bond Counsel Jesus Chuy Ramirez and First Southwest Financial Advisor Chris Vela to discuss the options, procedures, methods, instruments necessary to obtain the city's required financial responsibility for Hidalgo County Precinct 2, proposed roadway projects, and other projects proposed on April the 1st by myself, the City Commission of the City of San Juan, Hidalgo County Precinct 2, Commissioner Eduardo Cantu, and approve any and all necessary and finance commitments as proposed. It was tabled. Is there a motion to remove from the table?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Has been removed. Chief?
Yes, Mayor Commissioners, this item is the item that we've been discussing for quite a while already. I don't see Mr. Chris Vela in attendance here. This is here, bond counsel, but I think this is the item that's been discussed. There's a handout that's been passed around by the city secretary. We did have a discussion for discussion, and that was also, should be in your packet and emailed to you all.
And Chief, we would be prepared to answer questions on the different items. You will be?
I thought that Mr. Chris Vela was going to be here present, or the bond counsel. We can answer questions on the finance part, on the financing. Our account manager, Leroy Gonzalez, available. We all have any questions on it?
Ronnie, can you, Mr. Cruz, I'm sorry. Mr. Cruz, can you tell me I don't have here before, the estimation that was given by the county on Cesar Chavez?
The only one I didn't bring.
Like 1 million,
On the total, the county part was 1 million.
and the city part on that one.
The
I believe it was
1 million.
Yeah, so the city part was 1 million.
1 million, okay. And then Brechas is 900,000. Las Flores is approximately 900,000. Can you give me those numbers? I don't have that in front of me.
Flores is $954,430. Las Brechas, which includes Sergeant Trevino, is $901,945. And both of them are basically for drainage improvements.
Correct. And then San Antonio?
San Antonio was $890 from Ridge to Moore.
Mr. Cruz, I just wanted to get clarification on that particular one for San Antonio. The county has also done a cost estimate that I shared with you regarding doing road repairs for San Antonio Road. And the limits of that particular estimate that I forwarded to you was from Sam Houston all the way to Hall Acres. And it was approximately $570,000. And the one that you're proposing is only from Ridge Road to Moore, more or less.
Cemetery.
Cemetery, right. So could you explain the difference between what your estimate was and the cost estimate was and the cost estimate that the county has?
Sure, Commissioner. What the difference is that what the county's gonna do on that cost estimate was break up the existing pavement, put it back down, and pave it. Basically what option C was on Ridge and Eldora roads. Now, what we propose, I went back to what we
On
did.
Sioux and Eldora, you mean?
Sioux and Eldora. What we're gonna do is, match the area that was, it's already 40-foot back-to-back, which is over there on the subdivisions on the south side, and then run the curb and gutter all the way to Ridge and pave, the final pavement will be 40-foot back-to-back. And either you stripe it into 4 lanes, or you stripe 3 lanes with a turn lane in the middle, all the way to Ridge Road. Then pave that little piece from Ridge to the Cemetery Road, just scarify it. We put 1% lime in it, put it back down, and put an 1.5 inch hot mix. So there's, and then, of course, this includes drainage, fixing all intersections with 6-foot valley gutters, and any curb and gutter that's broken or anything that's existing, and sidewalks. This includes sidewalks.
So basically, a complete reconstruction of
Right.
the road, including adding drainage. improvements.
Drainage, curb and gutter, sidewalks.
And the county estimate, that was more or less like an overlay? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
It's in essence the same,
right.
the same exact work that we'll be doing on Eldora and Sioux and Nolana as well, which is to basically scrape the top surface and then lay a 2-inch layer of asphalt. And then it's also twice as, actually, probably more than twice as long, because I think what Ronnie is proposing is from Ridge to Cemetery, basically to the canal. And the county proposal is from Sam Houston all the way to Hall Acres.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was the amount on that?
It's about, Ronnie, do you have that? I sent it to you. I think it's
I don't have it, Commissioner.
570,000?
It was, if you
I'll
add
get
them,
that right
it was
now.
in pieces. If you all add it all up, it was at about 500 and some thousand. 570, I think it was.
507?
Actually, San Antonio is
70.
is 919,000. This is an old thing here. Which it included also, Commissioner, is acquisition of right-of-way on that corner tract between where the open field is. And we just threw a number in there. We don't know exactly what that amount would be. And it would be $919,049. That's what that is, including the right-of-way acquisition.
And that 800,000 is San Juan doing it on
That was
our,
before.
900.
oh, 900,000
Yeah, this-
is San
this,
Juan doing it on our own?
Excuse
Or
me?
Is that doing it on our own or with county assistance?
No, this is doing it on your own.
Doing it on our own.
573,929,
73,000,
573,000.
okay.
And out of that 573, what would be our part for the city?
Well, I can't speak for the commissioner on that, but that's something that we'd have to sit down and talk to him about, how much he's willing to put towards that amount. That's something that we can, work with moving forward. But what he wanted to do is just make sure that, that was put out there, and so he asked me to send it to Ronnie for review and comparison to what he was proposing, so that, we could at least have a conversation about it and see if that was something that the city was willing to do. Chief, one question, and I just want to confirm, based on the report that we have before us that was prepared by First Southwest, Mr. Chris Vela, I'm looking at scenarios 5 and 6, particularly when it talks about tax impact. And I just want to be clear that on both those scenarios, there would be a 0 tax impact.
That's correct.
That is correct.
And that would be a 20-year amortization, borrowing $4.14 million, or a 15-year amortization would be 4.25 million.
Correct.
And that would be with no tax impact whatsoever.
That's correct.
Be 4.1, you say 4.5.
4.25.
4.1
And the
if you
15
do
years.
20 years, and 4.25 if you do 15 years.
So with those numbers, I'm just going to throw this as my thoughts. La Brechas, Las Flores, San Antonio, if I do the 573, and that, I know that's kind of iffy still, but the 573, and then $1 million towards Cesar Chavez would put us at about $3,425,000, 450, with a leftover of approximately, and I mean leftover for no tax impact, of approximately 824,000 plus. If we did all those things, with the 824,000, we could dedicate, I don't know if you saw that, the city of Westlaco invested in a paver machine for about 170,000. We would be able to invest in purchasing the machine, materials, and invest at least 500,000 in immediate monies for road work. And I think we've had enough to be able to see all this rain, which areas are actually having such great demand. And we could do, I believe, all those things and take the 15 so that we're not really amortizing anything that would not last the 15 years. But take the 15-year amortization and be able to meet all these projects and have something to invest even now and be able to take care of these needs with keeping the money that the commission and the county has already invested or has already contracted to do for us on Eldora, Sioux Road, and Olana.
The only thing I would add, Mayor, and Commissioner Suarez, myself, and Mr. Mike Gonzalez traveled out to Alabama earlier last year to look at a machine very similar to the one that Wesco is using. And so we got to see it, firsthand, in action. And I think that's a great idea because I believe that technology is something that's new and is very effective. But additionally, the only thing that I would add, and it seems like there might be some funding there, is a street sweeper. Right now, the city has, how many, Mike? And how many of them are operational? 0. And so, yeah. What I would just suggest with some of that balance is that we purchase at least one street sweeper, and then potentially if we could surplus the 2 existing ones and put them up for sale or even potentially trade in, because we did mention that to the manufacturer and the wholesaler. We could surplus our existing street sweepers and potentially trade both of those in to get one, purchase one and trade in for one, and then we could have 2 operational street sweepers, which are also very important in the maintenance of the roads, which would also prolong the life of the roads.
And what was the cost? What, if we went out for bids, because we would probably have to go for bids, right, Ms. Gonzalez?
I went ahead and got us quote, this from a whiteboard vendor, it was $180,000.
180. And we're talking about a sweeper, correct? Yes. And what was quoted on the newspaper for Westlaco was about 170, if I'm not mistaken. And that's $350,000, which would leave us let me maybe approximately maybe 350,000. And I would like to dedicate that to the asphalt, and I want to dedicate it to fixing immediacy on some of streets that we know it's not going to go very long. But I think that we need to make an effort, and we already have, and I think that even after these rains, Mr. Cruz's assessments might have changed the way some of these streets have kind of been looking. But I think what's really important is that we should never run out of asphalt when we have our streets in the conditions that they are. And I would like to invest that money to be able to do that, but I don't want to buy a machine we can't get things for. So if the combination would be the money for the machine for the paving and asphalt and have it there so that we can begin that kind of work and make it going further, then that's how I would like to invest for the totality.
If I may though, on that machine, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't use asphalt. It uses a,
Cleans out the hole or the pothole with air, and then you'll throw in injection, which is an oil, and then it'll compact it with the pebbles or the small rock. And it hardens very, very quick.
And what does a machine to fill in the cracks, what is that, what would that, is that something? that-
Crack sealer?
Yeah, crack seal.
Okay, I'm already in the process of buying one, Mayor. That's not very expensive, it's like $500, $600. It's a small one that we can use manually. It's a small, pardon?
I have one of those.
I haven't seen one. I think at one time, I talked to Javier Gomez, and they had rented some out. Yeah, they rented them, but I'm in the process, I think in Northwestern, I got a quote for about $500. So I'm in the process of buying that. And also, I also found a company that would sell us it's called Tech Oil, that we need to put in
This is for heavy street usage, it's not for
it's for residential, Mayor.
residential streets?
Well, it's really all streets. It'll fill the things. As a matter of fact, we tried it on Naqua Street,
Huh?
and we haven't had complaints, and we did that, maybe about 10 months ago, 11 months ago. So it worked pretty good. You put that tech oil, then you put a little bit of, I don't remember the name of the sand, but you put sand on it, and it'll seal real nice. So, like I said, I already have a company in Annenberg where we can purchase that oil.
And I guess that's what we need to do is, as we
Yes.
purchase items, that we're also estimating the cost of running them. And the materials that we would have to invest to make sure that they're always up and running, as we purchase these, so we can put them in our budget as we come into the budget season,
Yes, sir. I'm getting all that package ready for the new budget.
right?
Thank you.
And I think one of the things that, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, that Vela mentioned as I went over some of these numbers on the scenarios, that he's also, as he was looking at the structuring of the debt, that it would be allowable so that future issuance of debt would be taken care of. We are preparing ourselves for the future, so when we're ready to go out for some more debt, he's structuring it so that we would be able to do it. And I think that's one thing that we have to definitely start working at as we look at our streets. So, but I think this is, I mean, what I'm proposing is I think we can get a lot done and no taxes, and we can get it started now. And that we can also stay on the timeline with the county and what they had said they would do for our folks in Eldora, Sioux Road, and then Cesar Chavez would just open up a lot of opportunity for us. So I'm hoping that we can agree on this one and get this done.
Mr. Gonzalez, going back to that paver machine, we have the manpower to run that machine, or no? How many personnel are we looking at here? 6?
Is that what Westlaco needs? Okay, so you're really not too sure what that number would be, though? Because you're not really sure it's going to be 6, so, depending what the option. Right.
Now, what kind of training would you guys go through? Oh, really? You, more or less, you know how long, or? Oh, no, okay. Thank you, sir.
I know that when we were out there, what's the name of the gentleman that was with us from your department? Mr. Nunez spent maybe 30 minutes on it, and he picked it up right away, and he was able to fill the potholes with it very effectively and efficiently.
Mayor and Commissioners, just to follow up on that, on the sweepers that we have, there's no recourse to maintain them or repair them, so we do need a brand-new sweeper. On the cost that we've been talking about here, I think that at the very low end, the 180,000 quote was one of the very low-end machines, but we need to do a needs assessment and see what machine is going to be work for the city of San Juan, and I think that will be but the number also that we looked at between 180, $225,000, that's what Mr. Gonzalez had mentioned. So on the training, once we purchase from the company, usually the companies do offer some webinar training, and also sometimes if it's heavy equipment, they usually send somebody so they can be able to train. We've been working real good with FAR and Alamo, and on the beautification of some of those areas, and they have offered their training for our personnel as well, so we can take care of that as well.
I think that this would be definitely something we can get even sooner, just as we begin the very necessary work on our streets. Yeah. And then keeping in mind that I was just informed last week by the fire chief that we're going to need what are we needing? A tanker. For how much? Yeah. Is there a motion for approval the way that I've proposed? I would say that some of the numbers may need to be tweaked because I was using fast on the numbers.
Mayor, if I just may, can we make a motion to direct our financial advisor and our bond counsel to move forward, because it has to be a 30-day advertising period, and then at the end of that 30-day period, it comes back for ratification by commission. So and between now and then, the commission can have workshops to specifically pinpoint that, but generally using the items that you've mentioned, but pinpointing the actual costs so that we can begin the process of 30-day advertising. At the end of the 30 days, and we can ratify all the numbers, all the projects, and then issue the debt. So if you're okay with that, and Counselor, I don't know if you need more clarification than that.
I have a question for the mayor and the commission. Okay, these last couple of weeks, we've been talking about roadway projects, and today we have some new items that are coming in as far as machinery and equipment. That has not been mentioned. We've only been talking since April the 1st and the April the 14th meeting about specific roadway projects. So I want to make sure that we're okay with our motion. We're going to go out for sale of certificate of obligation, the notice of publication, and then, but the equipment you're mentioning, this is the first time I'm hearing it. I don't know if anybody else has, but we've not talked about that. We've only talked about specific roadways, Las Brechas, Las Flores, San Antonio, Eldora, Sioux, and Cesar Chavez.
That is correct.
But now we're talking about equipment, so I don't feel.
I think what my thought is that we don't have enough to go out and begin a road projects in big anywhere, unless we're going to raise taxes. But if we're able, it's still a road project. If we're able to bring something that can give us some immediate help for our crews out there, and begin some work on some roadways that are not in bad shape or are not in as bad a condition where it would have to be completely redone, that we can start salvaging some of our streets. And so in that sense, we would be able. Now, I guess the concern would be, okay, do you really want to finance 15 years on a machine that might not last that long? So I guess my thought would be, as we are paying down and we look at how we pay down on our debt, and maybe identify that the first debt that gets paid off is a machine that might not have the life of 15-year amortization. But still, it allows us to have the funds to do road projects that we haven't considered because we don't have the funds, but it would allow and open abilities to do streets. So it's tied to it,
Tied to it.
yes.
My concern is the open meetings, the actual agendas that we have. We've only been talking about streets. And if we say today, I'm requesting a motion to approve that we go out for the sale of certificates for these roadway projects, we have not been specific as to mention equipment like this, because it's changing from roads, las flores, et cetera. Now it's saying we're going to go ahead and go out for the sale of certificates for equipment, and then a couple of roads.
The council, so what would cure that?
Well, I mean, you can go out for the certificate of sales if you're talking about the roadway projects we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, but I don't see how we can do that for the equipment that you're proposing today.
Okay, well, not today, but we can cure it, right? Because
yes.
even the mayor pro tem says, let's go out and get the numbers.
Yes.
So
And
you
we'll
put it
have
on
future
the.
workshops?
Yeah, you put it out there and,
Okay, I feel comfortable with that then. Okay, I just want to make sure we were on the same page.
okay, thank you.
And at any point, it still would need to be ratified.
That's correct.
So,
Thank you.
great. So Mayor, do you want to read it and then I'll make the
Sure,
motion?
and I'm going to, the disclaimer will be the total on the numbers, but maybe I won't read numbers, but just those have been proposed that we approve for consideration on certificates of obligation to be issued to join the county in the road work on Cesar Chavez, that the city also engage in the drainage projects for La Brechas, Las Flores, that we also look at the purchase of a machine for the asphalt and any of the materials, we said materials. And then we have $350,000 that we can invest in the materials for the machine. And that would cover all the items to be approximately up to the 4.25. Oh, San Antonio, I'm sorry. Ooh, I almost missed that one. No, San Antonio. And still have money left over of approximately 350,000 that we could, and then invest in, as we have the workshops. I'm sorry, that's in there, and it's in my calculations.
So I'll make a motion that we instruct bond counsel and our financial advisor to issue the debt as presented in the report today of 4.25 million over 15-year amortization to fund the projects that were just described by the mayor.
And issue notice of publication, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And Commissioner?
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. On item D, presentation of 2015 Dr. Pepper Snapple Park Bin Grant Program Award from Keep America Beautiful. Ms. Borrego,
Good evening, Mayor and Commission.
good evening.
The City of San Juan is referred to as Keep San Juan Beautiful on the Keep America Beautiful affiliate list. As a representative of the City of San Juan, Keep San Juan Beautiful applied and was awarded a 2015 Dr. Pepper Snapple Park Bin Grant. The grant will supply the City of San Juan with 25 recyclable trash bins to be placed at city parks and used during city-hosted community events. The bins will collect plastic bottles and aluminum cans that will then be recycled through the San Juan Recycling Center. As with any award, stipulations must be met. This includes tracking and reporting recyclables every 6 months for a 2-year grant period and informing the media of the award acceptance. The grant does not require formal commission approval, but is brought to you and the public's attention. Unless there's any questions, that concludes my presentation.
But are there any questions on this award? None. Is there a motion for approval as presented? It was moved by Commissioner Ramirez and second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Borrego. Item E, update by Ronnie Cruz on the following matters: the lowering of the canal the road widening Eldora and Sergeant Leonel Trevino, lowering of canal crossings on Sioux Road, Urban County Engineering Half and Associates, 16-inch raw water reservoir to reservoir transfer line project, construction of water and sanitary sewer lines along north side of US Expressway 83, the EDEP project, first-time sewer connections to approximately 105 residents, and 3.5 million gallon a day water treatment plant. Number 2, expansion and rehabilitation of the existing 3.5 plant project with the Texas Water Development Board DWSRF project number 62530, presentation update on the water plant number 2, and presentation on departmental reports. I'm sorry, those are different items. Up to the water plant treatment. Mr. Cruz.
Mayor, Commissioners, my memo's in your packet. The first item was the lowering of the canals and road widening in Eldora and Sergeant Trevino. Both, they've been completed. The final walkthrough was conducted in March, and the final pay request by the contractor is in line to be paid and finalized. And just to go to number 2, also the same one is on Sioux Road. That one's been completed, and they're going through their final pay request with Urban County. On any of those 3, you have any questions? Item number 3 is a 16-inch raw water reservoir to reservoir transfer line. If you remember, this bid was awarded to OG Construction in September 2014 for $1.595 million. Notice to proceed was November 24th, 2014. Construction began on December the 1st, 2014. The project began in Sergeant Trevino, headed north along the Retama Street with the water line, then it goes, then went west on 495. This is the reservoir at Sergeant Trevino Park to the reservoir at Water Treatment Plant number 2, which is on I Road. This project's been going on. About 10,000 lineal feet have been laid. They're already past Raul and Goria. They're about right there. All the bores are complete. So they're proceeding. They have 210 calendar days to complete the project. And as of Friday, April 24th, they'll have 98 days. And they're within schedule to complete this project on time. What's pending is obviously laying of the line to the plant, then the pump station, which is at the reservoir. Project's about 50% complete, but once the line is laid, then you're talking about the pump station at one location, so it'll go a lot quicker. Is there any questions on that project?
The road work, not the road work, but the line on Retama. Uh-huh. When do they come in and fix that?
They were gonna fix it before you all did the bicycle thing,
Yes, uh-huh.
but the rains didn't let them. And so they will come back now. I don't know when you're gonna reschedule it, but should be rescheduled anytime now. Now, as the weather gets clear, things will start cleaning up behind them.
So can you check with them
Yeah, I'll
before
check.
the next meeting so we can have a sense of a timeline, so it doesn't just kind of lay out there? And bring that back to us, please.
Any other questions on the project? The next one is the construction of the water and sanitary sewer lines along the north side of US 83, Expressway 83. The sewer line from the future Retama heading west towards the Mercedes-Benz has been completed. And then the water line has been completed in that area and also along Retama. They're already in front of the park heading on Sergeant Trevino, heading west towards the Mercedes-Benz water line on the south side, on the north side of their project. That project was also awarded to OG Construction for $491,544. It began on notice to proceed with January 5th, 2015. So they have constructed most of it. They have, in about 2 weeks, they will be complete in that area. And then they plan on going to Minnesota Road and doing that sewer line over there. Obviously, this project is another one, like all the rest of them, have been delayed because of rain issues. But they are probably 60% complete at this point.
Ronnie, on these, some of the work that they've already done since it's gotten rain, Are they gonna go back and recompact?
Actually, it's, yes, because the rain actually helps if it's
With
not
the
in a
compact,
pavement.
right.
And they've been working very well with all the customers that you all have, because we're transferring all the water services to the city of San Juan when it's all completed. Because all those, if you remember, you all bought out that CCN probably about 3 years ago. And, but it was never transferred to the city of San Juan. They're still in North Alamo water lines. So when we're done, we're gonna connect them all to the city, which I think there's about 16 connections that will be transferred over. So, it'll be a good project, and if it doesn't rain, it should be completed pretty, within a month, I hope.
Questions? Any further questions on that? Go ahead.
The next one is the EDAP, and what I did, I just put the proposed timeline. It's attached for your review. We just keep updating it, but it looks like the last few times it's been pretty close. We're still waiting. Everything has to go through the Water Development Board. Everything gets scrutinized by every office in Austin, but it's proceeding. And it looks like we're hoping by the end, when we're at the end of the funding, that there will be funds available, EDAP, because what we understand right now, there's no funds. But it's a program that they put in funds for regularly, not all the time, but there could be some funds available to do the project.
And then the funding for this would come from the enterprise fund,
Water Development Board.
but our portion
Oh,
for funding,
we haven't talked about that. But you probably can get it from the water and sewer,
right?
yes, the enterprise
Okay,
fund.
not the general,
No,
okay.
That would be the restricted fund from the revenues from sales of
Water and
water.
sewer.
and sewer.
I guess if we can start looking at that, I mean, you have like a July, August for the final approval. There'll still be time for getting to if the funding becomes available. But maybe we can start looking at what funding, I don't know how much it's going to be. I know you've given us estimates, but maybe we can start looking at that now, so when the timing becomes available, we know exactly what we could get, how much is available for us, because I would not want to lose that opportunity on some of these folks that have no water and sewer. We'd like to get that done. So once you get a clearer picture as to the funding and the timing and the portion, then we can start working towards that.
we are I think at the last submittal, which is category D. And once and we've already got comments, so we're almost done with that. At that point, we will start looking into that, which is gonna be pretty soon.
Within this year?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, to get it funded, we're hopefully, if everything goes right, late summer to get funds. But, Water Development Board works slow and slower, so we'll step up, but we'll look into the funding.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
The last item is a water treatment plant, and I have, there's a separate item on the agenda for that, which is the next one, if you want me to go into it.
Yes. That would be under F, presentation update on the water plant number 2.
In your packet, you have the memo from that's dated, the status from April 22nd, 2015. The work update, we'll skip the first part. We're electrical, some of the equipment's been delivered to the job site. Contractors worked over the last 2 weeks inside the control building, setting up and laying all the location of the switch gear, which is inside the new buildings. The clear cones are under construction, they're almost done. The filter security wall has been constructed to the point where we can do the foundation for the filters. The clear well, not a lot of work's been done there. Unfortunately, it's in a hole, so every time it rains, it hinders that part of the project. Projected work starting April 20th. Some of this is going to change. If you look at item, well, we'll just start with the first one. The CSI, which is SCI, which is the electrical contractor, they informed us that they have left the project. So today we found out that they came back to put some last things in the filter pad that we needed poured, but they left the project they informed us in a letter I think I gave it to the city attorney for lack of payment. Completion of the Clara cones is projected for May 5th, which is next week. The filter foundation work, it was gonna get poured as we understood tonight at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it got canceled till tomorrow night at 2 o'clock in the morning, but now I think it might be even canceled till Friday or Saturday, depending on some issues that have been coming out there. Obviously, the rain has hurt that project, also, that filter pour. The clear well, projected delivery might be postponed to mid-May. CBI has expressed that if they demobilize, there's issues. Now, at this point, we have Doug Smith with Texas Descon in the audience. If you all like to ask questions or to get some,
Definitely.
Hello,
Good evening.
Mayor Sanchez, Mr. Cruz, Chief, fellow commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak here real quick. That report you were giving to the commission, I appreciate that. Some of it, like Mr. Cruz stated, was SCR electrician. They pulled off, they didn't pull off. They were there today, they worked, they made sure that they got the electrical conduits in that we desperately need for the foundation, just in case we don't have another weather event that makes us lose the slab for the third, fourth time. Right now, it's on task for, like you said, for tomorrow at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. to place the concrete. But just to state with SCI just made a claim of non-payment citing the Texas Prompt Pay Act. The same thing that I said doesn't work with our contract because you're funded once the Texas Department of Water Development Board pays you, again, 10 days for us. So that's what they were citing, was in the event 30 days such. So.
I'm sorry, I don't even understand. I'm not really
Oh,
sure
I'm
I
sorry.
understand what you said. Are you saying you still have time to pay them?
No, ma'am. I'm stating that the comment that Mr. Cruz made, that they cited they pulled off for non-payment, is not completely accurate. They did not pull off.
Okay.
They're still there. They still work today. It was a threat or a letter they sent just to get our attention or get everybody's attention, and they cited under the Texas Prompt Pay Act. Now, all they have to do to get that is to supply release liens, like I do, to the city in order to show that everything's free and clear. So they are there. They're going to continue to work. And they're good. They're a great electrician. They're a great subcontractor. They're just protecting their bases just like we would in the event if we go past 15 days, is all that was.
Well, I understand that I just don't want threats.
Ma'am?
I don't want threats.
I don't either.
And
that-
so, it kind of concerns me that a company, one, would threaten,
Yes, ma'am.
and get to that point. I'm hoping that's not something that's going to be perpetual. I don't think it should be happened at all. So I want to know, when you all get together with the Texas Water Development Board, if there's anything that's, between them and the funding and us paying and all of those things going.
Has nothing to do with the
I want to make
city.
sure that it's nothing that we're doing as that is being completed or being paid, because I don't want to be seeing this on the agenda, and this shouldn't be happening.
No, ma'am, it shouldn't. And that's the reason I brought it up, was because it was handled today. They did not leave. They are working. It just took someone to, like myself, sent a letter to them to get to work, quit playing games, and they're back on board. So when I made the comment, it was a perceived threat. It was like, I'm not, it was taken care of, and you shouldn't have to listen to this. And like I said, they did not leave. They are working. They're not behind.
And that communication needs to continue.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to be appraised of anything that would in any way jeopardize our project and our timelines.
Yes, ma'am.
And it just doesn't look good. So
I
I
understand.
appreciate you being here to answer that, and I really don't want to see this happen again. And if there's anything that we in the city need to be made aware of way ahead of time, I want that to happen, than for it to be getting on the agenda that
Yes,
this
ma'am.
kind of things are happening.
Right.
I don't want to see that.
And I don't either, because this is something for us to deal with, and obviously the administration. But for example, I think you brought up CBI. They're talking about the weather's hindered and talking about demobilizing. CBI is the big company we all have to work with, that we're buying all the equipment from for the project. The comment they made about demobilizing, I know we've coordinated with them. We've worked with them, showing that the timelines are moved 2 weeks because of weather, and obviously they have this huge equipment that has to be transported from Houston to get here. Now, they've only moved it 1 week, which is if we place tomorrow at 2, they'll be delivering on May 6th, which is the filters. So we're still within the timeline of having everything delivered within May. May 17th being for the clear well that Mr. Cruz brought up, as far as getting that taking place. The clear well, obviously, is the big hole you see out there. When it rains, it fills up. So I know now we're dealing with the irrigation department for some existing issues, but we're going to make this on time. You know, the weather or not, it's our job to figure out how to overcome these events, you know, to make sure that we can get it done.
Absolutely.
The next meeting scheduled with that we have on board where everybody gets together is May 10th at 10 o'clock at the water treatment plant. And their next pay request, which is third pay, it's been approved, and I think the check will be issued by the city. The third pay request.
The third one, yes, sir, that's for March. We'll be submitting 4th April on the 30th.
You submit them to the inspector, and then you all go over it. May 10th, it gets presented to the Water Development Board, right?
Yes, sir. We do it before
That's
that.
the procedure, yeah.
I do appreciate you being here. It's much more helpful when we hear straight from you where we're at on that. We don't need to remind you how important that project is to us, and that's why, you know, we're concerned when we hear these things. But we do appreciate you being here to personally answer those, and we look forward to not having to hear these kinds of things and eventually seeing the project come to fruition, and weather permitting, you can get back on to the original schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had great weather, and I was actually excited when I went out to the project today. Saw the big raspas, the big snow cones, finally up so we can paint them. And like you said, the security wall, there's a lot of block underneath what's been going on to help support this system. So like I said, I was quite encouraged seeing all the massive structures out there today. So, thank you.
Item G, presentation of departmental reports. Chief Gonzalez.
Yes, Mayor Commissioner, you have before you several departmental reports. If you have any questions on it, I just want to highlight the Department of Streets and Alleys. They've been real busy. This morning also, we proceeded to buy some more asphalt. We have a lot of streets that we are working on, potholes. A lot of residents have been calling, and we are trying to do our best, you know. And I think that our men and women are out there, our men are out there working real hard in early in the morning and late afternoon. So we're doing our best. We can make sure that we respond to all the needs of our residents. So we bought some asphalt, and we bought also some caliche as well, so we can help us in some of the areas that we can fill out.
Any questions on any reports?
Mayor?
Go ahead.
I need to be excused.
That's fine. Commissioner Suarez has been excused at 7:04. Moving on, under public hearing, ordinance A, consider second and final reading of an ordinance for the conditional use permit for a drive-in business at the proposed Popeyes Snow Whiz, legally described as Lot 17 through 21, Tierra del Sol Number 2 subdivision, located at the northeast corner of Veterans Boulevard and 7th Street, as requested by Virginia and Michael A. Garza. Cervantes.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Commission. At the last meeting, you asked me to check with the City of FAR about the signal. Yes, they are in the process of doing a study. There's an email exchange in your packet that I had with somebody from the engineering department in the City of FAR. They're in the process of conducting the warrant study right now. Because of the accidents that have been taking place there, I have full confidence that it's going to meet one of the warrants at least. And after that is funding by the City of FAR.
And let me ask you, the entirety of I-Road belongs to the City of FAR?
That's correct.
So in getting this type of, do we need any sign-offs on that when it comes to the way that they're doing the ingress and egress from the property?
Well, on for this project, they're having, the applicants are having to get a permit from the City of FAR.
So, I mean, so the
Because of
way
the
that it's being, and there,
Yes.
because we talked about the way that folks can go in and out.
Yes.
Your statement is that the City of FAR understands that this is the new proposal rather than how it was approved from the,
The City of FAR my understanding is that the City of FAR has approved the site plan that Mr. Garza prefers, with the 1 lane going south and the 2 lanes going north.
okay,
The City of FAR has approved it.
okay.
And the signal, I have confidence that the signal will be installed late this year or next year sometime.
Are there any questions? That did answer the questions that we had. Is there a
Motion to
for-
approve?
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? That was Commissioner Garza. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
If I could just ask one quick question. When do you plan to begin construction?
Immediately.
Right away.
And-
Where
and-
summer
And
hits.
probably when it ends, it's probably gonna be in the later part, so catching the fall. So it's gonna meet right on time, so if that light's not there, it'll be slow anyway, so it's gonna be perfect. But it's coming.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good night. Thanks, sir.
B, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance for the rezoning request from a single-family residential district to neighboring commercial district at a property legally described as Lot Number 2, Unit Number 4, Small Subdivision Number 1, located at the 1600 block of North Marianne Street, as requested by Romeo Jimenez. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, Mr. Jimenez is proposing to rezone Lot 2, located just south of his parents' house. His parents own the 3 lots located at the southeast corner of FM 495 and Marianne Street. Mr. Jimenez is proposing to rezone that property in order to sell it with commercial zoning. The zoning that he is requesting is generally recognized as retail business, which supply commodities on the premises primarily for persons residing in adjacent residential areas. Staff recommends denial based on the fact that the property has no frontage to FM 495 and was designed for residential use. Back in the late 90s, the lots with frontage on FM 495 were zoned neighborhood commercial by the city of San Juan. But in staff's opinion, it is not recommended for lots in this subdivision that have no frontage on FM 495 to be zoned commercial. This will maintain the residential integrity of the neighborhood. Staff mailed a notice of the public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission to 20 neighboring property owners and received 1 call, 1 letter, and 1 email against the rezoning request. During the public hearing, a group of residents spoke in support of the rezoning request, and another group of residents spoke in opposition to the rezoning request. During their April 16 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended denial of the rezoning request with a 6-0 vote. Also, before we go to the public hearing, this case is a little unique because we have a petition in opposition that is more than 20% of the surrounding property owners, and so that requires a supermajority, and Mr. Vasquez will explain that in more detail.
Can I go ahead and open the public hearing first, and then you go into the mechanics of the, thank you. I'll go ahead and open this public hearing at 7:08. If there are any members of the audience who wish to speak for or against, this is the time.
Mayor, Commissioners,
Good evening.
my name is Romeo Jimenez, and the reason I'm here today is to request that Lot 2 small subdivision be rezoned from residential to commercial. On Thursday, April 16th, 2015, I met with the Planning and Zoning Committee to rezone Lot 2 small subdivision from residential to commercial. And there were 7 people present at the meeting who have lived in the subdivision for over 40 years, as have my family. Although I did not know them, did not invite them, they came to the meeting to support me. Only Dr. Cantu, who is not part of the small subdivision and has only resided next to the subdivision a few years, opposed the rezoning. The committee heard 7 people in favor of rezoning and Dr. Cantu against it. Even though there were 7 persons in favor of 1 and 1 person against, the committee ruled in favor of Dr. Cantu. Before all this took place, in February 2015, when my brothers were visiting in the valley, we decided as a family to begin the process of selling the property. At that point in time, Dr. Cantu approached my brothers about buying the property. Since the doctor didn't contact me, I went about the business of putting up a for sale sign. Dr. Cantu saw that I was doing, and he came over and told me to take down the sign because he was very interested in buying the property. He lives next door, and he wanted first choice. His pediatric practice is across the street. At the time of the meeting, I told Dr. Cantu that I did not have the key to the house, so he could not see the inside of the house. He said it was not necessary. He asked me about the price. I told him that I was asking $250,000, but that was negotiable. He came back with an offer of $225,000. If I would go to the rezoning committee and request that the front lot be changed from commercial to residential. He told me the reason for that was that his daughter, who lives in New York, wanted the property, but could not get a loan unless the property was residential. At Dr. Cantu's request, I went to City Hall and paid $300 to make the changes. Since it seemed that the sale of the house, the property was going to go through, I went to see my lawyer, Javier Ornelas, who is my lawyer. He advised me that before I went any further, Dr. Cantu and I needed to draw a contract or agreement for the rezoning of the property. So this agreement will be legal and binding. I went to Dr. Cantu's office and told him about my talk with Mr. Ornelas, and he said that he would talk to his lawyer, and we decided we would let them write the agreement on the rezoning and the agreed price on the property. What happened after that was that his wife called me. She claimed that she had talked to someone who told her that the property was worth no more than $120,000, which is about half of what the doctor offered.
Mr. Jimenez?
Yes.
I appreciate some of that, though, is a little not focused on the zoning itself. I think you're trying, and the reason I'm interjecting is because you've already spoken to an attorney, and there might be some things that might be being said. I don't know that it would involve the city in any way, but if there's litigation, make sure that this is public and it's being recorded, making sure that there's nothing that you're going to state that could later come back against you as you're stating what your attorney is advising you. I think what we're here for is the zoning itself, and maybe what you want to maybe focus on is what it is that you're trying to accomplish and as to the zoning, and maybe focus on that, and I would appreciate that.
Let me just go ahead and close it up. My parents were migrant workers and did not go much, but they were self-educated and knowledgeable in the things that count. They believe in working for their children and their future. They work long and hard to obtain the property. In conclusion, I am requesting that the city void the rezoning committee vote against me and rezone Lot 2 small subdivision to residential to commercial. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak for or against?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Nelda Cantu. We're neighbors of the Jimenezes. I understand and I know where Mr. Jimenez is coming from. Mr. Jimenez is looking out for himself and his family. We were interested in the property, but we did have it appraised, and that's where he's coming from. The appraisal that I have states that it's worth 120. He wanted 250. So at that time, we didn't want it as a commercial. We want it as a residential. I have a daughter that's in New York that's finishing her medical residency and would like to move to the Valley. And we would love to have her next to us. So she was interested in the property for a homestead, not for residential. So because of what our mortgage company and the appraisal told us, we decided, and they advised us that it was not a good investment. So we did not purchase it. But our intention was to purchase it because, like Mr. Jimenez said, Mr. and Mrs. Jimenez were wonderful neighbors. They were wonderful people, and we wanted to honor them by trying to buy the house for a homestead. Mr. Jimenez wants more money for his property. That's why he is trying to create it as commercial. Mr. Jimenez needs to understand that these are neighborhoods, that his property is not an island. There's many, many neighborhoods there, and there's many, many families with children. There's buses that go in and out of those neighborhoods every day. There's 2 daycares, one to the west, one right in front of their home that drops off kids with buses. There's a pediatric dentistry right across the street, which is all children. There's a pediatrician clinic right across the street with all children. There's going to be a family medical clinic across the street with all children. So there's a lot of activity with families in that area. Our concern is that we, as you, the city, are looking out for the families of San Juan. So our concern is that if it were to be rezoned, we don't know what business is going to be there. We don't know if it's going to be a bar. We don't know if there's going to be a cantina. We don't know if there's going to be a liquor store. We don't want those kind of businesses in our area. Those are residential homes. Down the road, there was a salon next to a restaurant that was raided because they were prostituting. So we don't want that in the neighborhood that is family-oriented. So we, again, until we know and we won't know what kind of business will be there. We are strongly opposing this rezoning for the sake of the family and the children of San Juan and the community that we live next to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other member of the public who wishes to state their opinion for or against? Any other member of the community? All right, I open it up to the commission. If you can come forward to the microphone, please, Ms. Jimenez.
Comment.
Yes, ma'am?
The fact that the first portion of that property, it's 6 lots, it's a little less than an acre. The first portion of that property is already commercial. All we're requesting is that the portion behind it be also given the status as rezoned as commercial. That's it. Just the first portion is already commercial. And that 495, that area is, you look back and forth across the street, there's pediatric clinic, the bank, other businesses, it's all businesses. So the first portion of that property is already commercial. We're only asking for the second portion to be created. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. Any other members of the community? All right, I go ahead and Mr. Cervantes.
I had a question, Mayor. Could you tell me, neighborhood commercial, what exactly does that include, or what exactly does that not allow?
It's, if you look in your packet, I list everything that it allows. Personal services, TV repairs, shoe repairs, dry cleaning establishments, business establishments which perform services on their premises, such as banks, loan companies, insurance, and real estate offices, outpatient medical clinics, office for doctors, commercial parking, and then you also have conditional uses that are allowed. Gasoline service station with a conditional use permit, a drive-in business with a conditional use permit, a restaurant or bar with a conditional use permit. So it's in your packet what's allowed and what's allowed with a conditional use permit.
May I add one more thing?
One more thing and then no more. I gave her an opportunity, I'll give you an opportunity.
Actually, the front of probably all the front lots, it's only 100 feet that is commercial. It's only 100 feet. It's not like the whole piece. That is what the appraisal district and the appraisal that we did told us, that it was only 100 feet from 495 that was considered commercial, and that was done back in the 1960s for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because of the expansion of 495, but it's only 100 feet.
Questions?
The front part of the property, Mr. Cervantes, is zoned,
The front part is already zoned using Mr. Jimenez. The family, they own 3 lots, which is these 3 lots. The front lot is already zoned neighborhood commercial. That was done in the 90s, I think. The city zoned this whole area.
property right next to it?
Over here?
Yes.
Is zoned commercial. That's the doctor's property. Mr. Jimenez is requesting neighborhood commercial for the middle lot, which is this one right here.
Spot zoning issues?
It's not a clear-cut spot zoning because you have commercial to the north and to the east. But back in the 90s, the city, for this neighborhood, the city established this line as a dividing line between commercial and residential. So if the zoning is approved, then you're breaking that line. So it's you could see it as spot zoning, or the next part, is based on judgment. It's not a clear-cut spot zoning, but if you go by that line, you could see it as spot zoning because you're not following. So if this is approved, and like I mentioned before, it will require 4 votes because we have a petition from 20% of the property owners. Then in the future, then you may have to approve this lot and then this lot and, all the second lots, because you're kind of setting precedent for all the second lots. And the thing is, this lot could be sold separately. Those 3 lots that the Jimenez own don't have to stay together. He could sell one lot, the south lot next year, and then the middle lot. So eventually you could have 3 different owners for the 3 lots. If that happens, that middle lot wouldn't have frontage on 495. The frontage is on Marianne Street. That's if the lots get split, which is a possibility. Because there are 3 lots. So you could sell one lot to somebody, another lot to somebody else, and have 3 different owners eventually.
And you had mentioned, and that's important because you had mentioned that in order to be commercial, it would have to have frontage.
Ideally, you want your commercial zonings along major thoroughfares, and Marianne Street is a residential street.
Now, let me ask you something. There's a piece of property, if you're traveling to Raul Longoria, and it's got nothing's ever been built, but it's got this sign that says commercial lots. I guess that was approved at some point to be commercial. Why was that? I mean, maybe you don't know why, but is that the case?
Normally, cities zone properties along major roadways commercial. So 495 is a commercial corridor, so you want to zone all the properties that have frontage to 495. It's a good practice to zone them commercial because they're conducive to commercial development. Same thing with veterans, Raul Longoria, those are the city's major thoroughfares. So they lend themselves for commercial development. Sometimes you have properties that are very small within those corridors that are difficult to develop commercial. But if you combine them with other properties, then it's more feasible.
I remember about, and I don't know what the state of it is, or what is in existence, and I don't even know if you know which one I'm making reference to. But it's before you start that neighborhood that is past the canal, a small subdivision, right? There's one that's a big empty lot. I remember when that came before us in years back, we denied it. But I've come since to see that I don't know if the zoning got changed, but the whole thought at that time was, even though that was one big blank area, it was zoned residential. And so it was not allowed to become, but now I see a sign, and it may be that people put up their own signs, or maybe that it got approved, but I guess what's kind of, that just kind of sets, like you said, you're setting precedents. Did that get changed, and what was the reason behind that lot getting changed, and now, and it was not approved the first time, and I don't know if it has been changed, and then this is residential, and you're making some very good points, that you start, changing the lay. I suppose that at some point it probably will. But right now, the way that you're looking at it and the way that the possibilities are, I think pose some real serious questions for the residential area. I like to know, and the other one that goes for Raul Longoria, what did the city do there?
I can look into it.
Council, if we've got different things going on, and
If you want to research it some more, we can request a table at this time.
for me, it's a sense of fairness. I take the points that you've got. I think that's very important. We don't want to create something that says something that might cause problems. I want to know why that other one was approved, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's why they haven't built. But I know that we called it spot zoning at that time, and it was not approved. I don't think that was was that part of the discussion with your?
No, this was not discussed at PNC. Just
Motion to table?
I think that would be good. If you want to make a
Yeah,
motion?
motion to table?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Cervantes.
Mr. Cervantes, on that, you're going to do your research
Yes.
and if you could send that separately as soon as you have that available,
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd like to, I'm sorry, I didn't close the public hearing. I took it before, so I'm going to officially close the public hearing at 7:25, and we have then proceeded and took a vote. Under contractuals, A, consider to lease a city right-of-way between lots 1, 18, 17, and Lot 2, Block 58, San Juan Original Townsite Subdivision, located at 1001 South Nebraska Avenue, as requested by Pastor Tim Huffman on behalf of the First Baptist Church. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, after a meeting with staff that took place on April 15, the First Baptist Church proposes to lease the right-of-way from the city in order to use it as part of their property instead of purchasing the right-of-way from the city. The proposed lease will be for $1 per year, contingent on the church installing gates approved by the fire department along the north and south side of the alley. The church owns the property east of this request. The church has plans to turn that property into a small park that will benefit the area and the city. The church will not be allowed to build or install anything on top of the alley. Staff recommends entering into a long-term agreement with the First Baptist Church towards the lease of the city alley between the church properties.
Gonzalez. I know that we had an opportunity to visit on some of these issues, but I'd like for you to have a discussion as to what the findings are that the city has done and also in the past with some alleys in other areas. Have there been some,
Did we check and see some other alleyways? One of the main things here we'll focus on, Mayor, is the fact that there was a public safety issue that Chief Tirso Garza, you want to come up real quick? That the chief also addressed with the church. One of the main things here was public access to our emergency vehicles. We did have a detailed discussion as to the possibilities of that being an issue, but it was discussed further that what's being recommended, what we came to a resolution together as well. Also with the city attorney allowing, if it was possible, that we could lease our property. And that's something that has been done before with other property that we leased the property as well. So, Chief?
do you have any concerns on the fire and the items that you feel that there's a viable proposition to work with that?
Well, I can work with the siren-activated motor that they'll put on those doors, ma'am. Like, normally we get these in these subdivisions, they're siren-activated, where as soon as we activate the siren, it automatically opens the gate. That'll give us it'll be considered as an unobstructed at the time of an emergency, because it'll activate the gates. But we need them on both sides, north and south side. if
Now,
possible.
how accurate are those gates, as far as, that of, have there been problems where, what
They
if
don't
those gates
open?
don't open?
A lot of times, Commissioner, what happens, usually what they do, they have the neighborhood home associations. And if it doesn't activate either with the siren or manually, there's somebody either next door or across the street right from it, and they'll activate the siren. I mean, the door to where it'll open. They're pretty much accurate. We had it also over here on Palm City Estates, and that's what we utilize to gain access. Yes,
You
ma'am.
haven't had any problems or heard of?
No, ma'am. And like I said, we have, but it's been to a point to where somebody's there either with a remote or activates it manually, so the gate's open when we get there. That's my only recommendation on that, is it's gonna be that, on those gates.
My understanding at the last commission meeting that there was going to be some meetings happening with Pastor Huffman to see if they were going to be able to do that, or whatever it was that the chief was going to require as far as is concerned. And then there was also going to be some discussion as to legally how we could do that. Have those conversations been held?
Yes, Mayor Protem, we have met with them, and we have discussed that, the options, and this was presented to them as well, that we needed some access to that alleyway, and that was one of probably the only resolution to it if they wanted to use that alleyway. We haven't, I don't know if we have had any other alleyways that, we were able to find. I know we did some research on that, Mr. Cervantes.
Continue looking. I haven't seen, I think it's been a long time since the city abandoned alleys. But based on our discussions, we feel that the lease is a better option and we get to keep the property, right? So
I think in one of the meetings, the meeting that we had also was discussed, I think, is also the brush pickups and things like that. They were pretty much ironed out that, them having access with a remote gate would access us and also sanitation for them to be able to pick up the brush. And of course, there's a water line and a gas line that runs right through that alleyway. So.
And as far as the lease and contractually?
Yes.
what
I've
do
had
you
an opportunity to speak to Mr. Cervantes about the lease. We are able to provide a lease to them. Section 272 of the Texas Local Government Code indicates this is an exception where we can have a lease, and this section, just to give you a little bit of background, indicates we can do short-term leases without an issue. If it's long-term, which the cases the AG has said is about 40 to 50 years. However, in this case, we don't have to get that far because there's an exception within the notice and bidding statutes and the fair market value and the leases, which indicate that if we are leasing to somebody a alley or a right-of-way, then we don't have to go through all the hoopla of 272. So I feel confident that we can do a lease with these individuals. And I spoke to Mr. Cervantes about this yesterday and today. So legally, I feel okay about it.
Any other questions?
The only question is has Pastor Huffman and his congregation agreed to what's been asked or how to enter into this? Because we'd like to approve it, and then that's not something that they're meeting. And if you,
Pastor Huffman, can you come forward, please?
All right, good evening, Mayor and Commission. Yeah, I mean, we have not priced everything. We have actually some connections within our church family with folks that do the gates and so on, and it has to be, the right one. So we would want to price that, but right now we have every plan of going ahead with it.
And you feel everything's been covered so that there's nothing else?
I don't think I know of anything.
Actually, I'm asking my staff, so.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
discussed
Mayor, we have,
everything.
we did make sure that legally we could do that. And not only that, the main issue was the public safety access to our, just in case there was a fire there. And we wanted to make sure that the chief and our personnel from Streets and Alleys were able to access that alleyway as well, just in case something we need to do. But I think the best thing we can do is that we can monitor as we go along once they do install that and see how that works. And that's what we're doing. We recommended 1-year lease, but I think that it will work the way that we were able to come with a resolution.
I think the other issue that was raised last time was that, I think you mentioned that there's a manhole. The concern I would have with that is going back to safety, since this is going to be intended for children. Is that correct, Pastor?
Yeah, another issue that might come up is something we put up there, depending on breaking, we've been kind of lucky, for one of them to walk there, but leaks when they do come up in the area. It's a steel line that open up a pretty good section area, and cut it out and reinstall it as a section new. So what happens is we end up digging up the area and then putting back in the same dirt as the
that is my, safety is my issue on this. Also, by doing this, if the commission approves it, we're just setting precedent here. So anytime anybody else in the community can come and, you know what I'm saying, if they want to take, peace, and that's my opinion on that.
Can I add one thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if we have it enclosed and you have a problem, you're going to have less of a likelihood with problems from children from the outside. It's going to be more protected with those fences than without, if I'm understanding you right. So I would think that would be a plus and not a minus, if I'm hearing you right.
Well, my main concern is if there's a fire, I know Chief was discussing, as far as someone having the key or the siren gates. What if the siren gets there and these gates don't open? Or what if the person who's in charge in that area is not home?
Okay, so we discussed that in these other housing areas, so there is a secondary way to do that, or contact somebody, or some solution, I would think, because if it doesn't.
Well, the main thing is, of course, if there's failure as far as electrical or anything like that, and we need the egress, we're gonna get in there. I mean, the bottom line,
Right.
either we have
And
to
we
knock it down.
yeah, and we understand that
But
as well.
it's like you said, Commissioner, and you brought up a good point there, you're gonna set precedents, and it's gonna, but, I mean, it's up to, we can work with.
And then, God forbid, something were to happen, then we get into legal problems here, So that is my concern here.
I think that a contract can definitely talk about the liabilities. I think one of the things that I like about the proposition and the possibilities, and I know that we have discussed this as a city back in 2007 and 2006, where the city was proposing, because there's very few, new neighborhoods don't have alleys. And so it's kind of using your property that you have to its best use. And so I remember it was proposed, and I don't know if I've never found out if we had an ordinance that we actually approved, where we're going to allow, and the talk was, let the people buy the alleyways. Let's get rid of the alleys.
Never came back.
It didn't come back?
I know it was presented one time, but it never went back.
Yeah, and I think in here, what they're proposing to do is the property that's right behind them belongs to the church. And they're trying to build a park. And it's a big open area. So if they had to come in through the back or anything else, it's all church property. And what they want to do is a continuous piece of property that flows from their church to the back, through the alley, to the playground, where the most of what you're looking at to happen would happen. And I believe that, and it's a lot of acreage, and to have now, let me ask you this, on the park that you're proposing, would that be open to the public as well, or is it just to your church?
Yeah, it would be very much like Cinco de Mayo, and you open it up to the whole city, Certainly, we're going to be interested in outreaches. We just had a youth Sunday at our church.
On certain occasions, is what you're saying?
Sure.
Events?
Sure. I do have another question. Okay, I heard 1 year, and I thought, and maybe I misheard earlier today, a 10-year lease, and I guess why I need to ask that, if we're investing the money, are we talking a year? Are we going to come back in a year? I guess we need to know that.
Absolutely.
For our information.
Absolutely. What is it you said, Council, as far as the lease?
Well, I believe the chief indicated a 1-year lease, and Mr. Cervantes and I had been talking about a 10-year lease, but it's up to the city commission. Legally, you're fine either way. I believe if Mr. Cervantes told me today that he was recommending a 10-year because of the investment on the fence.
Right.
And Chief, you were recommending a 1 year because you wanted to see,
Yes, that is correct, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor, I'm recommending that if we does get approved, 1 year to allow us to actually, I know that Commissioner Garza did mention the fact that he might set precedent, but also so we can be able to ascertain that we don't want to set precedent and then have a lot of other residents asking for the same thing, But I think that having 1 year lease, I know there's going to be an investment, but I think it's important for us also as a city to make sure that if we're going to allow it, that we have some discretion as to see if it's issues of public safety, then we're able to manage that when the year is up.
Of course, I would request, I'd recommend that we have indemnity and that the insurance cover the landlord and the tenant if this goes through today. I would recommend that. That way you would cover, if anybody ever gets hurt on these the equipment or these manholes that you're talking about, if someone were to get hurt, I think earlier they were talking about that. If some child from the church went out and got hurt on this piece of property or wherever this is located, this manhole, then we want to make sure that the city is protected and that it'd be your insurance responsibility, and if they came after the city, that your insurance company would have to indemnify the city.
Oh, that's something you would work into the contract, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Mayor.
Would it not be better to have legal counsel and the attorney for the church to look at all these issues and address them? Because I think we're talking about approving something that then is going to be subject to a contract. And I was just, I guess to be completely honest, I'm concerned, as both Commissioner Garza and Commissioner Ramirez mentioned, about the safety issue, but also even the investment that the church would potentially make. And if at the end of a year, the commission at that point chooses that we've just had too many issues, so we're not going to renew it, then you've just made a major investment. And so I guess my thing would be is, let's put everything into a contract that everybody can be comfortable with. And I say everyone, which means you would have your legal counsel meet with our legal counsel to draft a contract that you're comfortable with, and then bring back to this commission for approval before we even, move forward. Because I just think that it's too much, there's too much at risk, both on safety and on liability, and then on the investment on behalf of the church as well. I mean, that's just something that I just want to make sure, because even the last time it seemed like you hadn't been given a whole lot of information. And it seems like we've addressed a lot of that now. And now we're getting to a point where now we're talking about a contract, now we're talking about a lease, and we don't know what the issue or the details of that contract is going to be. So, I mean, I would feel a lot more comfortable if we could at least address all of those in a document and then bring it back. And if you're comfortable with it and this commission is comfortable with it, then I feel at least a lot more comfortable that everybody is aware of everything, and there's not going to be any surprises, and there's not going to be any issues that were not addressed. Granted, there's always something that comes up, but if we can address as many of them as possible in a legal instrument, then I think everybody feels a lot more comfortable. Even when an issue does arise, we know exactly how we're going to address it, because it was mentioned in the contract itself. I mean, I would feel better if we could do that. But, I mean, it's
I agree, and I think that.
I think that's good.
I think you do need to have your legal look at it and advise you, and we have our legal who's advising us, and
Right.
if there can be an understanding as to the extent what we would be looking at and what you,
Right.
I totally agree. I think you would be
I do
wise
too.
to
I
do
mean,
that.
I would want to concur with our church and make sure that's the way we want to go and get it down just the way it needs to
Right.
be. So I agree.
All right, then, would we go ahead and table this until, or move on?
Table it. Let me just ask Mr. Cervantes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Cervantes, you feel comfortable with this language on here? I mean, this is a right-of-way. We wouldn't just call it an alley. You feel comfortable with the language we have on the current agenda?
Yeah, it's a contract for a lease of that property as.
Of the right-of-way?
Of the right-of-way, and it mentions between what lots and what lots.
Okay. Then you can,
no action and then.
Or
bring it back.
authorize Mr. Vasquez to work with the council of the church to work a lease agreement.
Very good. That good enough?
you could take, comfortable with this language, you could table it and then bring it back.
Okay.
Mayor.
Is there a motion to table? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
It'll be tabled till the next meeting. Item B, ratify the interim city manager's authorization and approval to sign and submit the Community Economic Development Program application on behalf of the city of San Juan, Texas. Who's doing this?
Chanel and,
Okay.
PUC.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Just coming before you, this is a grant
that the PSG ISD, along with the 3 EDCs, have partnered together. It's my understanding that there were some timelines that I was not made aware of till the very end. And I spoke to Dr. Sandra Quiroz, who's spearheading this. But we appreciate the chief. San Juan EDC appreciates the chief and you, Mayor, and the commission in supporting this great endeavor that we believe as partnering with PSJISD with the parental engagement program that's currently going on that affects a lot of the adults in our community and gives them an opportunity to become entrepreneurs, and we're going to help them along the steps as they go along to building their own business if that's what they choose. So this is what this grant is about. It detailed a little bit more information than I was made aware of, but we were able to get caught up on some of this. But again, we appreciate, and I appreciate the support of Chanel in helping us get this grant submitted.
Ms. Borrego, I have a few questions. In your write-up, you stated that the EDC lacks the proper credentials to apply for the grant themselves. What does that do to the application?
Well, because they didn't have the proper credentials, which was a DUNS number, or they have a DUNS number, but it wasn't up to date, so they couldn't submit the application. Because of that, we had to submit it under our name. Because it's under our name, we're now liable to make sure that this grant, if awarded, follows proper procedures, that funding is used properly. And the only way to oversee that is if we are considered the primary partner in the actual MOU for the grant.
So the MOU would be for the city of San Juan, not the EDC?
Right.
Okay, so if that is the case, then would that monies be funded to the city?
Yes, it would.
We would be the ones to administer that?
Yes.
Not the EDC?
Right.
Okay. And even if the credentials, well, why are the credentials not up to date, Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor, again, like I said, some of these factors were made aware, that we were made aware late in the game. So we're working towards getting all that updated, Mayor. That was not updated at the time that we were made aware that we needed to have it updated. So we're working towards that right now.
Okay, and when were you handed the application?
The application, we discussed this about, I would say at least 3 weeks ago, Mayor, maybe 4. In our discussions, one of the things that before the city of San Juan and the San Juan EDC took a step forward to be the agent of record, these questions were asked and they were not provided to me. I asked exactly what was going to be needed. They did not share that with me until we submitted this, until we started the submission process. So that's what kind of steered us to kind of move things in a faster way than what we would have wanted. I've already met with our contract finance specialist and Mr. Vasquez, and we're already getting all those numbers up to date. So we'll get the DUNS number and the things that we need, so that this doesn't happen in the future.
Ms. Borrego, if the EDC is then not the participants,
Thank you.
because it's going to be the city and not the EDC, does this still qualify?
I read over the grant guidelines, and they state that in order to be an applicant, you must be I can't remember exactly what it was, but it states that in order to be an applicant, you must be a nonprofit organization, and your primary focus must be to provide low-income homes or economic opportunities to the community. Because that is not our primary focus, I don't feel that we are eligible to be an applicant for this particular grant. On top of that, I looked into people in the past that were awarded the grant, and they all had EDC as their name or were an actual nonprofit organization.
And so would that, have you discussed that with the group submitting? I mean, would that affect the application itself?
I would
For the
imagine
whole thing, or
so.
just a portion to San Juan? Do you know?
I would imagine it would affect the entire application, because usually what happens is they go through the grant, they make sure that you meet all the top qualifications, and then they'll begin looking over the narrative. And since we are the applicant and we don't meet the criteria, I would imagine they would push it aside.
I see.
But I can't,
You wouldn't
I wouldn't be able to specify whether or not it would.
Mayor, on that case, I reached out to Dr. Quiroz, and she had a different opinion from Chanel, and her being a grant writer and her experience. Her interpretation is totally different from Ms. Chanel, so I guess we're gonna have to get together to find out exactly what we can do and cannot do. But I did express her concerns, Chanel's concerns, to Dr. Quiroz, and she was adamantly that there's a big difference of opinion there. So we'll have to go back and
I guess it
make
just has
sure.
to do with qualifying, and that's something that the agency or whoever's administering will make a determination at this point anyway, is that correct? Yeah, so it's been submitted, so they'll let us know whether it qualified or not. Yeah, but how long is it going to take you to get all the proper credentials, so anything else comes up, we don't lose opportunities?
We're in the working process, Mayor. As soon as I know, I'll let you know. I'll update the commission.
All right.
Thank you.
I guess, is there a motion to ratify, because it's been signed, is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of minutes, April 14, 2015, regular meeting, and monthly collection report, March 31st, 2015. Are there any questions on any of those items? If not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:53.